In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the needle through the balloon. Now, this is as much science as it is an illusion. And so typically, I'll bring up a volunteer, and a lot of times I'll joke around with them. And if you watch the video of me doing it in front of people, you'll see sometimes I put their thumbs up and I'm pretending I'm going to go through their thumbs, and I have them say, "I believe." And the point is, doesn't matter what you say, what you believe can't change the truth. If I were to poke them with it, they're going to hurt. That's the truth. But what I'm doing does have a point, and it's not just the one on the end of the needle. The point is that, that Jesus made a way to save everybody. But you've got to be willing to trust Jesus, to give your life to Him. And so then I'll have my volunteer take the balloon and blow it up. And a lot of people, they just do this part. They'll just have a volunteer come up, blow up a balloon. Now, you don't want it to get stretched out too tight, because the key is that right there is where the needle's going to go in. Have them tie it off, or sometimes they'll hand it to you to tie off. When you tie it off, your other side of your needle's going to come through right here. And so these balloons, they are... these really aren't special balloons. They're a little more elasticy than balloons that you would just buy like at Walmart, like colored balloons, and that's why I like using them. But you can use balloons other than the ones that came with your needle. Now, I have a case for my needle. The reason I have a case for my needle is because I don't want to accidentally poke myself. And it also lets me have this in my hand and nobody knows that I've got an 18-inch long needle right here, and they don't see it until I'm ready to pull it out. And so when I'm ready to proceed with the illusion, I'll take the balloon and I'll say, you know, you don't have to be a genius to know, if I poke a balloon with a needle, what's going to happen? Well, it pops. I mean, that's not rocket science right there. I poke, it pops. Well, that's the natural result. Well, the Bible says the result of your sin, you die. The wages of sin is death. So there's a result here, a natural consequence. I poke, it pop, you sin, you die, so watch real close. Then I take the balloon and I turn it sideways. And I take my needle right here and I put it right there on that tip, right there. And now you got to be careful. Make sure your hands aren't shaking. And so put it right there. Now if you get it a little off center, don't prick it a little and pull away. That's a good way for your balloon to pop. Also, while you're doing it, don't squeeze your balloon real tight. Sometimes when you're nervous, you have a tendency to kind of squeeze things. Well, you don't want that to happen. Now, once your needle's in there, just guide it through to the other side, and you're going to come out right alongside. Ooh, I'm a little off there, but it's still going to work. All right, come right alongside. And I'm usually talking. I usually don't watch myself do it. I'm usually talking about, well, I'll show you what I say in a second. And then I take it and you pull it through. Now make sure you don't wiggle that, because if you wiggle it, you're going to lose air, or you're going to create a pretty big gap there. Now, one thing I want you to know is when my needle went in, this needle is greased with kind of a chapstick. In fact, I've used chapstick with it. And you take it through the balloon and it kind of helps fill up the hole. If you make a hole on the other side, you can put your finger over it and it will hold it, at least for a little bit. And so you say, you know what? Wait a minute, you said you poke, it pop. You sin, you die. That's right. But if you've given your life to Jesus, He's taken the sting out of death. But if you haven't, there's nobody to take the result of your sin but you. And so there's your point. There are also the tips. Now, when you store these, you want to make sure that they're cleaned, that they're not going to rust, for one. And a little rust isn't going to kill you. I've got just a little bit on mine right there. But I also keep mine greased, and on the inside of this is lubricated with that. And you can buy these at a variety of different places. Really handy to have to make sure you don't accidentally poke yourself or somebody else. Great illusion to use. Sometimes I'll take as long as 10 or 15 minutes doing this one illusion, coming up, teaching the first point that I usually do, which is just because you believe something doesn't change the truth. And then going into the fact that our sin has consequences, just like popping the balloon, but if you've given your life to Christ, He's taken the sting out of death. And if you haven't, well, what's going to happen someday when you die? There's nobody to take the punishment for your sin but you. Do you believe it? Whether you believe it or not, that's the truth.